Disclaimer. This book may contain content that is considered historically inaccurate or culturally insensitive by modern standards. My hope is that by exploring old literature, we will better understand why people of the past thought the way that they did and understand the influences that shape their culture. This video is not intended for young audiences. Hi, I'm Morgan, and today I will be reading to you from Out of Door Book, which is the 7th book in a collection or series of books called The Children's Hour, published by Houghton Mifflin Co. in 1907. And the story I will be reading is A Runaway Locomotive by Henry Frith. Some 10 minutes before 10, one fine morning, Eldred and his trusty companion backed the engine down to the short train, which was then ready to convey its passengers northwards. There were about 150 passengers, with luggage, and the whole train weighed over 100 tons. Eldred had to take this flyer as far as Boundstall, and he was timed to run the 120 miles in 2 hours and 20 minutes, or at a speed of over 50 miles an hour, including stoppages, starting and pulling up. He had 2 stoppages en route. A record of his journey may be interesting. The Polyphemus started at 1 minute after 10 a.m., and, notwithstanding certain inclines which it had to overcome, it performed the first 50 miles in the hour, and actually ran over its time for that section. After quitting Hernford, the average pace was 60 miles an hour, varying between 58 and 63 miles per hour. The 120 miles were actually run in 130 minutes, a splendid record with 8 loaded coaches. But when the Polyphemus had reached Boundstall, rather before than after time, and just as Jack, the fireman, was about to uncouple the engine, the station master came up and ordered Eldred to proceed 50 miles farther, as the engine which had been selected to perform the next section had displayed a cracked tire, and another steed had been telegraphed for to be ready at Unterwall, 50 miles ahead, so there was nothing for it but to obey. "We'll have cut it fine to get back in time, then," said Eldred. 50 miles and back means a couple of hours extra running." "You can manage that, Charlie," remarked the station master. "Yes, we can manage it, but it's work all on end from 9 till 7 o'clock tonight. No time for dinner either, nor perhaps no tea." "Well, I can't help it. I'm very sorry. You must go. You may rest hereafter. You can perhaps arrange for the 5 o'clock instead of the 3:30 as named." So Eldred and his steed, the sturdy Polyphemus, rushed away, and in due time handed the train over to a compound locomotive at Unterwall platform, greatly to the driver's satisfaction. "Now, Jack, a drop of water, a few lumps of coal, and we'll get back to Boundstall in a second. There's that big bank to climb up by Shortness, but I think we can run it, as the line's clear." Jack assented. The Polyphemus was run on the siding and left there a while. The driver and his mate got off for a few minutes before starting on their rapid run, light. "You mind that engine, you young imp," shouted Jack to a lad employed in the office. Don't you get up playing tricks here." "Who's playing tricks? Think I never see an engine before?" replied the lad, who was standing on the step. He got off it, however, and the enginemen proceeded to the cabin to warm their tea in their cans, and eat a bit of dinner. 10 minutes would suffice for this, while the young cleaners looked round the engine, and the relief men supplied its wants. These matters were soon arranged. The relief men put the engine back on the siding, and the coast being clear, the pointsmen opened the switches for the main up line. Only a passenger train had gone up since Polyphemus had come in, and it travelled well, so Eldred hoped to reach Boundstall in an hour easily. He did not hurry, for the railway paradox occurred to him. If I leave here rather late, I shall reach Boundstall all the earlier, thereby arguing that he would not be checked by signal, a mile or 2 outside his destination, and thus he could actually arrive more quickly. So Eldred and his mate did not hurry themselves, but, just as they emerged from the cabin, smoking and looking about, they perceived an engine which was very much like Polyphemus, moving over the points. The name was not distinguishable as the locomotive passed, and was immediately hidden behind some empty carriages. "What's up, Jack?" exclaimed Eldred. "Strikes me that was Polyphemus coming over." "Looked like her," replied Jack. "Come along. Mind that engine, Bob." An engine just then was moving out to the siding. The driver whistled to Eldred and his mate, but they did not stop to parley. They hurried along. When they reached the siding near the box, it was empty. "Hello, pointsman! Where's my engine?" shouted Eldred. "What's your engine? I never seen you before. What's it?" "What's it? Why, Polyphemus! She was here 10 minutes ago. Come in with the flyer. Where is she?" "Blessed if I know, then," replied the man. "Dickie Sharp was on her, maybe. He's away now." "Are the points open?" asked Eldred. "If so, she's gone off by herself with that child, and there'll be murder. Where's your foreman?" "Here he is. He's in a put-out." "Two, I can see," said the pointsman. "Hi, you!" roared the official. "Who sent that engine up the line just now?" "Polyphemus. She's off by herself, running away. You, Bird, here, get out on the up line and follow her up. That's safest. Look alive. You're her chaps, I suppose?" "Yes," replied Eldred. "We came to find her. We'll run down with these mates and try to overtake her. That child will never stop her." "Right away, then. Are the points clear?" "Yes, sir," replied the man. "Then off with you. I'll telegraph on and have the road cleared. Mind you catch her before she pitches into the up passengers. Run!" Bird and his companions needed no admonition. Fortunately, the engine was in steam, ready for piloting, if required, and Bird was an experienced driver. He did not know Eldred, who had not run that section since he was on the goods traffic, and men change. "Fire away, my lad," said Eldred. "The Polyphemus can travel, thee may be sure." "So can the Lion," replied Philip Bird, "and she'll pick up your engine pretty smart." "That's good," was Jack's comment. Eldred made no reply. He was too anxious. A pause ensued. The Lion ran out rapidly and mounted the curve faster and faster, roaring through a tunnel, growling over a bridge, and snarling at a paling alongside. But no glimpse of the Polyphemus could the pursuers get. "They'll have to do it a bit quicker, mate," said Eldred to the driver. "She's got a long start." Bird opened the regulator a little more, and in a moment the pace became tremendous. The somewhat small driving wheels revolved with fearful rapidity. The eye could not follow the rapid revolutions, nor could the ear distinguish the separate beats of the exhaust. Fast along the level, rushing at headlong speed through the cutting, bringing small showers of chalk down behind her, the Lion swept on. Then, with sloping, diminishing banks, topped with fading hedges and autumn-tinted trees at intervals, furrowed land, pasture, common succeeded each other at a terrible pace. No sooner had a cottage come in sight than it was passed, then a road. Shut off, shouted Jack. "The level crossing gates are open. Something is coming. Who opened the gates?" Bird never touched the regulator. He knew it was no use to chuck the engine. Instead of stopping, he rushed on, whistling loudly and sharply in staccato notes to direct the attention of those at the gate to their danger. A cart and horse were stopped just inside the gate on the down line, but the animal was sulky and refused to back. In vain the carter pushed and encouraged the brute. It would not move, and the man, seeing his danger, ran behind the cart for safety. Roaring and shrieking, the Lion came on, and dashed completely through the gates. One was splintered into matchwood, and the fragments seriously injured the unfortunate horse, which immediately rushed forward at a headlong pace, bleeding from the gashes caused by the splinters which had struck him in several places. But he sustained no other injuries. The engine was half a mile away by the time the carter had cleared the metals in pursuit, and the woman at the crossing was in a terrible fright. The Lion sustained no injury. She continued her headlong run, and, after 3 minutes of really alarming speed, came in sight of the Runaway, just rising the hill opposite. "We must catch her on the incline," shouted Bird. "If she gets over the bank, she'll run off altogether. Hold hard." Then began a run which has never had its parallel in the annals of engine driving. The Polyphemus had nearly a mile start then, but was slackening visibly on the bank. This ascent is 1 in 150 for a short distance, then 1 in 200 to the top, when the line falls for 2 miles at 1 in 200. Beyond the steep incline is a large station, a busy junction, where engines and trains are always passing to and fro, crossing and recrossing and shunting. If this place had not already received and acted upon the warning, a dreadful accident must surely happen, for a parliamentary train started thence after the faster passenger train. The occupants of the Lion could not yet perceive the distant signal, and they did not dare to slacken speed. If Polyphemus passed the summit first, or not under control, no human agency would stop her. The pointsman would not turn her into a siding, because the lad was on the engine, but the station master might have her slewed round on the loop line, and thus avoid the points of the main metals. These thoughts occupied the silent quartet of engine-men of the Lion, which was tearing madly along in pursuit up the hill. "Look out!" cried Eldred. "We shall do it! Steady, mate! She's overhauling fast!" As he spoke, one driver slung himself off the footplate, and clinging desperately to the handrail, stood on the framing in front, awaiting the moment when the buffers would touch the tender of the Polyphemus. Driver Bird knew his business. He ran up cautiously, but had little time to spare. The lad on the Polyphemus, of course, saw them, and was making frantic attempts to stop, but he could not shut the regulator. It was very stiff, and he could not close it or reverse the gear. But he had, in some slight degree, checked the monster with the handbrake, and this pressure told going uphill. A bump, a slight rebound, another touch, and the engine and tender ran buffer to buffer. In a moment, Eldred had leaped over and gained the footplate over the coals, narrowly escaping death by coming in contact with the bridge, under which the engines were just then passing. But the summit was yet ahead. The steam was shut off, the boy kicked aside, and the monster of Polypheme was brought up, as quiet as a lamb, in front of the hardy Lion and the junction sidings. There all had been prepared. The down line had been cleared, and an engine was already in movement in order to collar the runaway as it passed. But when the engines were seen coming along amiably together, the officials knew that all danger was over, and the Lion, after a draught of water, was sent back amid many congratulations and expressions of wonderment and goodwill. Nor was Eldred forgotten. This second brave act of his became talked about, and the directors were pleased at their next meeting to compliment him upon his bravery and pluck in dangerous circumstances. They specially noted him for promotion, and Mr. Cannon personally congratulated him. "If you live, you will do well, Eldred, but if you go racing runaway engines, you won't live long. However, you behaved well, and we'll look after you on the next opportunity." The driver of the Lion and his fireman were promoted with Jack, who was put to drive soon after, and he just missed the turn he wished to run, the charge of the Queen's train. This was a great disappointment for him, but the honor of driving Her Gracious Majesty was reserved for Robert Eldred himself, and Polyphemus was the engine selected when the time came. And that is the end of A Runaway Locomotive by Henry Frith. Thank you for listening to this chapter with me, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Have a great day!